everyone, this is Katie Ward, and today I will be talking to you about the infamous John Wilkes Booth. I'm sure you've all heard of him at some point in your life, but I know you'll learn something new about him from this presentation. So, let's get started. So John Wilkes Booth was born on May 10th, 1838 in Bel Air, Maryland. No, this is not the same Bel Air the Fresh Prince is from. That's in California. Anyway, John Wilkes Booth was raised on a farm, owned by his family, and worked on by slaves. The name of his house is called Tudor Hall, and Tudor Hall was built by his father and is actually still around today. Now, in his lifetime, John Wilkes Booth attended two schools. The first was Milton Boarding School for Boys, and the second was St. Timothy's Hall in the north. But although he attended these two schools, John Wilkes Booth was not well educated. This is because he failed to attend class daily. I highly suggest attending class daily. You don't want to turn out to be like this person, and you'll find out why later in this presentation, so stay tuned. Now here's a fact about John Wilkes Booth you may not have known. His main career was acting. He took after his father and brothers, and at the age of 17, he started his acting career. In fact, he's traveled all around the country to perform in plays, mostly Shakespearean, such as Richard III, his very first performance, Julius Caesar, which he performed in alongside of his brothers, and Othello. Oh, beware, my lord, of jealousy. It is the green-eyed monster which doth mock the meat it feeds on. Sadly, Mr. Booth had to leave the stage in 1863 due to a respiratory illness. Alright guys, next topic. So John Wilkes Booth, like his family members, supported slavery, meaning he was completely against this document shown, the Emancipation Proclamation, which said that all the slaves were to be set free. Since he despised abolitionists so much, he joined the Know Nothing Party, whose goal was to limit immigration of people into the United States, and he also joined a Virginia company, whose goal was to capture and execute John Brown. This is because John Brown was one of the most radical abolitionists of the time, and he believed that armed insurrection was the only way to end slavery in the United States. The goal of this party was achieved when John Brown was hung, because his raid on Harper's Ferry was seen as treasonous. I'm sure John Wilkes Booth was happy. Until he lost most of his savings by investing in an oil company, which he backed out of after receiving no immediate profit. Here's a fun fact. John Wilkes Booth promised his mother he would not join the Confederate Army, so instead, he worked for them as a spy, a secret agent. So next, I will read a poem I've written about the Lincoln assassination, which is what John Wilkes Booth is most notorious for. So pay close attention to details, and I hope you all enjoy it. Here it is. The Lincoln Conspiracy. John Wilkes Booth's downfall. Booth and his fellow conspirators despised President Lincoln a lot, so the men came together and formulated a plot. Lincoln was supposed to make a speech in D.C. and then head on down to Baltimore. So the men waited for him at the city gates, but to their surprise, Mr. Lincoln changed plans and never walked through the city's doors. After the plan to capture Lincoln went downhill like a sled, Booth took matters into his own hands, for he wanted Lincoln dead. Lincoln went to Ford's Theater in D.C. on April 14, 1865, to watch Our American Cousin with a few friends and his wife. Booth found out he would be at the show, so he formed a plan and put it into action. At this point, Booth would do anything if it meant gaining his personal satisfaction. At the theater, Booth slithered behind Lincoln, and with his pistol, he pulled the trigger, then leaped over the presidential box, filled with pride, enthusiasm, and vigor. But Booth lost his balance and landed on the stage below. He ended up breaking his leg from the hard, horrific blow. Meanwhile, in the presidential box, Mr. Lincoln lay dead, with blood trickling down his neck, and a .44 caliber Derringer pistol bullet in his head. Sic semper tyrannis, the South is avenged, shouted Booth in the theater, to show he got his revenge. Booth mounted his horse and met up with David Harold. To Mary Surratt's house they went, to obtain supplies and escape further peril. But John's broken leg gave him excruciating pain, so after getting supplies, they went to the house of Dr. Samuel Mudd in an attempt to assuage the pain. The two stayed there for a while, but after Mr. Mudd found out that the men were wanted criminals, he promptly kicked them out. The fugitives scurry to the house of Samuel Cox and kindly ask if they can stay, but when they tell Cox that they are criminals, he too turns the pair away. But Samuel directs them to the house of Mr. Thomas Jones, and when the pair arrives at his house, he orders them to stay outdoors among the bushes, trees, and stones. When it was safe, they attempted to cross the Potomac to seek refuge in Virginia State. The first attempt they failed, but the second time they got over, making them less irate. Then they too fled to Port Royal, Virginia, to Richard G. Garrett's barn, and hid in the barn for days, until Union soldiers surrounded them, fully armed. When the pair refused to surrender, the soldiers set the barn on fire. Booth got badly burned, and while he was coming out of the barn, a soldier took aim and fired. Booth was shot and fell to the ground. He crawled out of the barn with Union soldiers all around. Later that day, Booth died from the bullet. He is notorious for what he has done, but he is something our country will never forget. Well, thank you all for listening to my presentation. I hope you all enjoyed it and enjoyed the poem. And I really hope you learned something new today. So, thank you for watching. Hope you have a good rest of your day.